Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into my official college football week number 4 picks and predictions, where I go through every game involving a ranked team and give my prediction. And how about this? Another Friday night ranked v ranked matchup. It is Illinois. Illinois, yes, they recently were ranked this past week. They're undefeated, taking on Nebraska, who's also undefeated. These teams both 3-0. Nebraska sitting at 22. Illinois at 24, Nebraska minus 8.5. There's an 8 o'clock Eastern start time again Friday night. And I do think Nebraska and Dylan Raiola, who really, it's getting crazy with Dylan Raiola and Mahomes, seriously, with how close he models, even the pregame warmups. But give me Nebraska to win this game. Lower scoring game at home. Nebraska against Northern Iowa kind of slept-walked. They won 34-3. But I do think Illinois, the defense travels. They'll play solid defense. They always do under Brett Bielema. And they'll keep this game close. They'll be able to cover the spread. I can't pick them for the upset. But this is a very interesting opportunity for the Illini, because you're facing a true freshman. I know Raiola's gotten all the hype. He's been as advertised, he's been good, but he's still a true freshman. And what happens when something doesn't go his way early in the game? The first 3 weeks, it seems like everything's been on script. You crush Colorado, you score 28 points early in that game. Week 1, I think it was UTEP, an easy win, obviously. And then week 3 against an FCS team. The Illini are going to give him some adversity. How is he going to handle that? I think they keep this game close on a Friday night, but Nebraska, they have got a very easy schedule. We thought this was going to be an easy game for them. Turns out maybe not, because Illinois is a solid team, but I will take them to win on Friday. Moving on to the Saturday window, this is somehow the big noon game. They just milk Ohio State for views, I swear. How is this the big noon game? It's Marshall. Ohio State is 39.5-point favorites. 97% chance to win. Marshall on offense, they do have a really good receiver, but other than that, it's not looking too good for them. They had a bye week last week, so did Ohio State. The Buckeyes with their defense, I might have given Marshall too many points in this game, honestly. It's going to be very hard for them to score 13, but I do think Ohio State, we saw them against Western Michigan, systematically march down the field every time. Jeremiah Smith, Will Howard, they look good. Jutkins, Trevion Henderson, they are loaded. 39.5 is a pretty big number against a Marshall team who, they're not that bad. They're not a horrible group of 5 team. They're kind of like a mid-average group of 5 team, maybe slightly better. But I do think Ohio State easily wins this game coming off the bye. 39.5 is a big number, but I do like the over in this game and the Buckeyes to win. I don't know if Marshall will be able to get to 13, maybe 63-10 in that one. The next noon game, it is Clemson coming off a bye week. They crushed Appalachian State the week before that. Nobody really talked about it because it was a random 8 o'clock game, but they scored 56 points in the first half. They will be taking on NC State, and what a bad year it's been for NC State. Clemson is sitting minus 15.5. Even after getting destroyed in week 1 against Georgia. Clemson, the heavy favorites in this game, given an 89% chance to win, and I think Clemson is going to crush NC State. It just has not worked out with Grayson McCall. They're at home. They had a crazy performance 2 weeks ago with Cade Klubnik really finding himself on offense, like 5 passing touchdowns in the first half, and you're facing a team that's very, very beatable. I think they're going to run it up. They're going to win this game easily. And people are going to be like, okay, Clemson, they can still be the best team in the ACC. We know there's all this hype surrounding Miami, but Clemson, in a game like this, it's just such a great opportunity, considering people still consider NC State to be a decent team. If you go out and you crush them, that is going to be a statement. They cover. That's a ballooned spread, 15.5. You would say, man, there's good value on NC State. I just cannot trust them right now with how they've played. Moving on to a 2 o'clock game here. It is Iowa State sitting at number 20. Iowa State, kind of a sleeper team. They beat Iowa a few weeks ago on the road. Iowa now looks pretty good, at least on offense, so maybe that was a very solid win. Now they're at home after a bye week, taking on Arkansas State. Arkansas State, they did cover a spread against Michigan. They lost 28-18. Now Arkansas State sitting 21-point underdogs at Iowa State. And I do like this Iowa State offense. I think there's no way, with how they've started this year, Matt Campbell kind of having a few off seasons, they're back this year. They've got a young, solid quarterback. They win this game very easily against an Arkansas State team who's not horrible. It's not like they're terrible, but I do think Iowa State sitting at number 20. This is not going to be a game where it's close. You could argue in the past, Iowa State, they'd lose a game like this or it would be close, but I just think in this scenario, they win this one relatively easily there. Moving on to the 3:30 window, it is Penn State. They are coming off a bye, taking on Kent State. So Penn State is the worst team in all of FBS. They were losing to Tennessee 65 to nothing at the end of the first half, 37 to nothing at the end of the first quarter. So when it comes to Penn State, we know how bad they performed against Bowling Green, but they got a very early bye. I'm sure James Franklin, he's going to have them ready to go. They're 49.5-point favorites. I mean, Kent State is legit worse than a lot of FCS teams. I think it's just not enough. Penn State ends up winning this game by 66 points. They win 69-3. Penn State has shown a propensity to score into the high 60s, into the low 70s against some of these MAC teams in the past under James Franklin. And I think that happens again. Kent State is just horrible. There's no way I could pick them to cover this spread, even though it is almost 50 points. 69-3, the final there. Moving on. This is the main 3:30 game. This is the CBS game. It's ranked v. ranked. It is USC coming off a bye. They're at number 11 in the country, taking on Michigan. Michigan, they've had a rough start to the season. Davis Warren, 3 interceptions against Arkansas State. Will he be the starter against USC? I would probably say yes, just because they haven't really gone off of him yet. But you can see USC sitting with around a 58% chance to win. They're 5.5-point favorites in this game. When it came to Michigan against Texas, I think I predicted Texas to win a relatively low-scoring game and cover a 5.5-point spread, winning by about 10 points. And I think maybe the same thing happens in this one. I've got USC winning kind of a lower-scoring game. USC with their new defensive coordinator, there's a narrative that he's turned around their defense. They're possibly going to be a top 10 team. They win this game, lower scoring than expected, 27-16. Michigan, they're just not good enough on offense, especially at the quarterback position. They're going to run it a ton with Mullings and Edwards, but it's not going to be enough against USC. That's a rejuvenated team. That's a rejuvenated program with the coaching changes they've made on the defensive side of the ball. They're coming off a bye. They're ready to go on the road. Michigan's already lost one home game. I think they're going to lose another to USC. USC ends up winning, and then they'll probably become a top 10 team, you would expect, with that win there on the road. Another 3:30 game. It is Notre Dame hosting Miami of Ohio. So some weird things going on with this game. Number one, we saw 2 weeks ago Notre Dame lost to a MAC team at home. Then Notre Dame went to Purdue and won 62-7. I believe, or no, 66-7. I'm sorry, 66-7. They were winning 42-0 at the end of the first half. So Notre Dame is just loved now by the analytics. Miami of Ohio was supposed to be the best team in the MAC. They've started 0-2. And so now Notre Dame is 26.5-point favorites. And I'm not going to be doing the thing where, they're going to lose to another MAC team. I think Notre Dame wins this game relatively easily. 44-20. I guess I don't have them covering the 26.5-point spread. I don't feel strongly one way or another about it, but to be fair, it is kind of funny that Miami of Ohio was supposed to be the best team in the MAC, and Notre Dame has already lost to a MAC team, and now they face Miami of Ohio. But Miami of Ohio is 0-2. I don't think they're that bad. They've had, they barely lost to Cincinnati. They barely lost to Northwestern, but obviously Notre Dame's a lot better than those teams, and they're at home. And you would think that Riley Leonard, after waking up and really using his running ability against Purdue, they might have just awoken Notre Dame. And Notre Dame understands they cannot really lose a game. If they lose another game, it's going to be hard for them to make the playoff because they have that terrible home loss to Northern Illinois. Next, we do have Louisville at home taking on Georgia Tech. Louisville is sitting -10. Louisville at number 19 in the country coming off a bye. Georgia Tech, they played in week 0. Remember, they beat Florida State. And I believe they are also are coming off a bye. They also lost to Syracuse. They are sitting as 10-point underdogs. I do realize I haven't picked very many outright upsets. This will be a decent one here, 10-point underdogs. I do think Georgia Tech wins this game outright. Haynes King, underrated QB, dual threat. He can throw it, he can run it. Louisville, solid team. I don't think they're necessarily a top 20 team. They've had a decent start to the year, but give me Georgia Tech after a bye week on the road in a higher scoring game in a fun environment to win this game outright. I still do like Georgia Tech, even though if you look back on it, that win against FSU probably isn't very valuable. Georgia Tech is still a solid team. I think they get an upset on the road as 10-point underdogs in that one. How about this? Here's a MAC game that I'm predicting because Northern Illinois is ranked. I am predicting a MAC game. It is Buffalo taking on NIU sitting -14 at home. This is a 3:30 game. They are ranked number 23. They were ranked number 25. Then they had a bye week and they moved up 2 spots. They've got a 78% chance to win this game. And I just feel like this is one of those where maybe it's a little bit overhyped. Maybe they come out and they struggle. Northern Illinois ends up winning this game, but it's going to be closer. I do like the value in Buffalo plus the 14. Buffalo's not a horrible team. They haven't had a great start to the year, but it's not like they're one of the worst MAC teams at this point. I think they're able to keep this game close, maybe even lead at the start of it. It's going to be emotional. It's a ranked team. NIU is ranked and they're playing a home game. It's pretty sweet. Give me them to win, but I think it's going to be closer than expected with Buffalo covering that 14-point spread. How about this game? 340. I think this is the ABC game. It is LSU hosting UCLA. Kind of a fun matchup here. How about this? LSU, even after all their struggles, sitting -22.5. UCLA got crushed at home against Indiana. And by the way, Indiana might be ranked after this next week. They're probably going to beat Charlotte, but LSU, massive favorites. And I think this is finally LSU's coming out party. They win this game. They easily cover the 22.5-point spread. They're going to crunch UCLA. This is just one of those situations. You're at Tiger Stadium. The vibes are great. And maybe you go up like 28-7 early second quarter. You end up dropping a 50 burger. Maybe you score 58. I think LSU at some point, they have not covered a spread. They're 0-3 against the spread. They're due for one. And they cover this one against a bad UCLA team. They win this game in a fun little late afternoon 340 window there, 51-17. Moving on to the 4 o'clock. This is another really good game, ranked v. ranked. It is Utah traveling to Oklahoma State. So we don't really know right now what's going on with Utah. I would imagine Cam Rising is not going to be playing in this game with the wrist. And so they will have to go with, it is Zach Wilson's brother who played very well, Isaac Wilson. He played very well this past week against an unadmitted bad team, Utah State. They're going on the road to take on Oklahoma State, who kind of has become one-dimensional in terms of passing. Hubbard, their superstar running back, has not played well. Maybe this is a game where he goes off, but against a good Utah defense, I don't see it. Either way, with all the injuries and with that Oklahoma State offensive passing attack at home, I think they're able to win this game and cover a 3-point spread, 30-21. Both of these teams sitting at 3-0. The Big 12 is a mosh pit. I'm sure both of these teams are going to lose probably multiple games. But I do think Oklahoma State holds serve. They win this game at home and they cover a 3-point spread there. A 4:15 game. It is Missouri sitting -21, taking on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they were having a good season, and then I don't know what happened against Georgia State. I think it's typical Vanderbilt. Missouri, they've gotten a very easy schedule to start this year. They did beat Boston College, and Boston College was ranked, but they only won by 6 points. They're sitting -21 in this one. And I do like Vanderbilt, believe it or not, to keep this game relatively close. Missouri will win. Missouri's probably not going to feel threatened in this game, but I do think they will be able to cover, Vanderbilt that is, the 21-point spread and keep it kind of close. Vanderbilt this year has a pulse. I think they'll play well on the road. They have had some relatively easy matchups here to start the season. Moving out of the 7 o'clock window, it is Miami traveling to South Florida. Another fun Florida matchup. This game at Raymond James Stadium, Miami, with all of the hype. You've got Cam Ward right now in the middle of the Heisman picture. I will say for Miami, let's understand that week 1 win against Florida, it looks a little bit worse if we're being honest. I'm not trying to say Miami's this horrible team, but I do think people have to understand. People think Miami's like a top 4, top 5 team right now in college football. I mean, they are ranked number 8, but let's understand their big win really wasn't all that big, and then they beat 2 really bad teams in week 2 and week 3. Now they're on the road at a decent South Florida team. I like South Florida. South Florida hung in there against Alabama. They're not horrible. I mean, Miami's only 17.5-point favorites, and I do think this is going to be a big scare for Miami that people don't see coming. Miami's kind of sleptwalked. It's la-di-da-di-da. They crush Ball State. They crush another bad FCS team in week 2 after beating Florida. The narrative is that, oh, Miami, there's this great team this year. And I just think some things are going to go wrong early in this game. It's an in-state game, and they're going to have to fight for it. And maybe they'll win on a walk-off field goal, but it'll be one of those games where people are surprised. Remember the Alabama-South Florida game? Everyone was surprised. It was a very close game late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter. Alabama ended up pulling away. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen in this matchup. It's going to be close until the end. Miami wins this game, but I like South Florida there, plus the 17.5. Another ranked v. ranked game. This is the premier game of the week. It is Tennessee and their high-powered offense at number 6 in the country now, traveling to Oklahoma. Oklahoma is undefeated, although they've looked a lot worse than Tennessee. They have had a little bit of a tougher schedule facing Tulane. You do have Tennessee, the 7.5-point road favorites, given a 71% chance to win. And I love Tennessee this year. I had them in my playoff when I did my preseason predictions, and I have them winning this game by 14 and covering that 7.5-point spread. They've got too many playmakers on offense. Nico Lamaliva is a phenomenal young QB. He's going to be possibly a top 2, top 3 overall draft pick. They win this game very easily. They cover the 7.5-point spread, basically doubling it up. And Tennessee possibly could be a top 5 team, maybe enter the top 5, depending on what happens. I know Ole Miss right now is number 5. They face Georgia Southern. That game's coming up here soon. But this is going to be a big win for Tennessee if they're able to get it on the road at Oklahoma. And it's not like Oklahoma is going to be this bad team. I mean, they're still going to be 3-1. They're probably still going to be ranked if they lose this game. For Oklahoma to win this game, I think it's possible. I mean, you're at home against a young QB. Rattle him a little bit early. Jackson Arnold is kind of finding his footing running the ball, which could help you. But it's just that Oklahoma offense, it scares me. And even the game against Tulane, they were only up by 5 points in the fourth quarter of that one. The week before, they really struggled, only scoring 16 total points. That was with a safety, so 14 points on offense. Their offense struggles too much for me. I have to take Tennessee, the high-powered offense, on the road in that one. Why am I predicting this game? Why is Texas A&M ranked? Oh, God. I gotta start predicting Texas A&M games again. Great. Texas A&M sitting minus 23. They're at number 25 in the country, taking on Bowling Green. And I have to be honest, I don't know. This kind of feels free. I think Texas A&M is going to cover. I know Bowling Green almost beat Penn State, and it's like, oh, maybe they're not that bad. I don't know. I think Texas A&M easily wins this game. They cover a 23-point spread, 48-14 against Bowling Green. It's Bowling Green. Maybe I'm disrespecting Bowling Green because they did have a good performance against Penn State. I don't know. But give me Texas A&M to win that game easily. 7:45 start time. It is Ole Miss taking on Georgia Southern. Ole Miss right now, they're a juggernaut. They're 3-0 against the spread. They're blowing everyone out. Georgia Southern is at least decent on offense to where I think they can finally cover a spread against Ole Miss. At some point, Ole Miss is going to have to stop scoring all these points. I think they win this game 47-24, but Georgia Southern covers a spread, and they cover that 36.5 point spread. Wow. Georgia Southern's not even that horrible of a team either. Like Georgia Southern against an average like Utah, they'd probably be like plus 21. It's just Ole Miss has been crazy recently. And so I do like Georgia Southern to cover that spread against Ole Miss. Ole Miss, though, people think they're going to win the national title. I mean, they look really good right now, but they haven't faced anyone. Even beating a team like Wake Forest, I mean, it's really not that impressive on the road, but their defense did look very good, only allowing 6 points. You've got Texas with another very easy matchup. Arch Manning, probably going to be starting him out. You know, you don't want to rush Quinn Ewers back against UL Monroe. Texas sitting minus 45 with a 99% chance to win this game. This is not going to be a close game. I do have Texas covering the spread. There's really not much to say about it. They're going to get Arch Manning, probably 4 or 5 passing touchdowns, get him in rhythm in the first half, and it's going to be a very easy win. Maybe 59-3, 52-3, something like that. Texas had a big spread against UTSA and was able to cover it pretty easily. They were 35-point favorites. I think they ended up winning that game by like 45, like 52-7 or something like that. And then the nightcap, the 10:30 late night game. It is Kansas State traveling to BYU. Kansas State sitting at number 13. You know, I did disrespect Kansas State when I picked them to lose against Arizona at home. I do want to apologize for that. And I was very tempted to pick BYU. Both of these teams are 3-0. If BYU wins this game, they're probably going to be entering the top 20 if they win this game, even though they're unranked right now because they are 3-0 and they've been very impressive. But I will have maybe a little bit of a lower scoring game. Kansas State hold serve. BYU, I love them to cover a 7-point spread with that environment. Late night game, 7:30 window there on the West Coast, and they're able to cover a 7-point spread and keep this game close because the crowd's going to be amazing. Undefeated versus undefeated early season. Give me 24-21, the final score in that one. Kansas State's able to hold on. That's a tough road game for Kansas State. It's really a lose-lose because BYU's not even ranked. It's like, well, if you lose this game, you're screwed, you know, because it's not like BYU's this great team, but if you win, it's like you beat an unranked team. So it's a lose-lose proposition. When you're 7-point favorites as an undefeated team on the road, that's never a fun spot to be in. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.